All right. On to the content before we get ourselves in any more trouble than we already may or may not be in. Matt Nagy from Monday, the day after a blowout loss. I think it's fair to call it a blowout. 20 points is a blowout loss to the L.A. Rams. Matt Nagy on Andy Dalton versus Justin Fields. After we saw some Fields, maybe enough to make people say we should see more Fields, here's Nagy on the Dalton-Fields experiment after 1 week.
I know this is just one game. It's just the beginning and the start. But to Bears fans, every game is telltale. Yep. So after seeing Andy Dalton live, I think what Bears fans want to know is, what does Dalton give you that at this point Justin Fields does not?
Well, that's a good question. I understand it. But when you look back and you say, and after you're able to watch the tape and see where you're at, you know that, we talked about, and I brought it up in regards to producing and scoring touchdowns and winning. And so we're always evaluating that. But I thought that Andy did a pretty good job yesterday of being able to, get the ball out to guys where he needed to in certain situations. You look back, and the biggest error that he had was that interception to start the game. And sometimes those can be big ones because that's a momentum deal right on third down. So, without getting into the comparisons too much, I just think that right now when we're evaluating Andy, that I thought he did a good job of being able to put us in good situations, and then using Justin when we did. Justin did well too.
Look, as we continue to try to make sense of where this is all going, the best explanation in my mind continues to be the one that we've tried to drill down to. The idea that they want to keep Justin Fields out of the fray to learn the game like Patrick Mahomes did in 2017. So they play him next year, and so that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace and Ted Phillips to a certain extent get judged next year on Fields. They'd rather have a more finished product next year than throw him out there this year and maybe impede or undermine or delay his progress. And he said exactly what I thought they would be saying once the game started. Everyone else, the offense stinks with Andy Dalton. Bears assessment, it's good enough, because I think fundamentally what they want to do is hold Justin Fields in their back pocket as long as they can, Chris.
Yeah, I guess what I just question is the motives of that. I do. I mean, I do. To me, we've discussed this. I understand. Yeah, you want to protect the rookie quarterback, but man, I mean, Justin Fields through the preseason was very trustworthy and looked NFL ready. And that's where I want to throw the challenge flag on that one. I do. What about that game plan could Justin Fields not have run the other night? Could Justin Fields not have jammed the 4-yard slant over the middle in there? Could Justin Fields not have thrown the 5-yard hitch route out to the sideline? Oh, my gosh. Andy Dalton put us in great positions to throw 4-yard passes. Whoa. I'm sorry. I don't get it. I don't like it. Yeah.
Here's what I don't know.
Right.
And may try to find out the answer to. How much do the Chiefs believe that the Patrick Mahomes we saw in 2018, week 1, is a product of not playing him at all, except for a meaningless week 17 game in 2017?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's not like, and look, we've all heard the stories, the people who really loved Patrick Mahomes kept their mouths shut about it, so the draft experts who don't necessarily do their own evaluation. They just pass along what they hear from people who do. They didn't know Mahomes was the guy, right? But maybe Mahomes needed that to make the transition from college to the NFL.
I hear you.
And Nagy was the offensive coordinator, and he saw it. Whatever it is that he saw, if that's what they believed in Kansas City.
I know.
But that would be the only reason why he's trying to do it now. We are deliberately and consciously giving this kid a year to be an understudy. For the most part, he's going to play some, but he's going to be an understudy. And by next year, he's going to be so much better for it than if he played this year and maybe had his confidence broken down a little bit, or gotten some tough spots and learned some bad habits. We'd rather take it deliberately and slowly and let him have his coming out party next year. That's the only way to understand it. And the organization would have to be sold on that before you make the move. I doubt that they just caught a wild hair the first night of the draft and traded from 20 to 11.
No.
They had to have talked it through and had a plan for it. And that's the only way it makes sense, that Matt Nagy firmly believes Justin Fields will be dramatically better next year if he sits than if he starts.
Yeah, listen, I get the logic to a degree, but it's a different circumstance too. Kansas City at that point was clearly one of the best teams in the AFC. They were one of the best teams in the AFC. And, they were the number 2 seed in the AFC playoffs as Mahomes sat there on the bench. I'll go back to what I said then. I'll go back to what you've heard me say a million times. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes played that year. They probably wouldn't have been the 2 seed, but they would have gotten the playoffs and been a more dangerous football team. They should have beat the Steelers in the divisional football game. People were open everywhere. They were open everywhere. I mean, and Alex Smith just wouldn't pull the trigger in some of those starts. I think it was the Steelers game. Maybe I'm off on one year. That was the year before. That's why they drafted Mahomes. But
the Titans when Mario completed the pass to himself.
Yes, that was a wild card game versus the Titans, which there was like no offense that day. And that's where I go, yeah, if Mahomes played that year, they would have been better in that playoff game with Mahomes than they would have Alex Smith. I don't care what anybody says. That's just my belief. So that's a different circumstance altogether with the team there. And I understand he had a firsthand look at that. I understand that. I get it. But I still look at this and just go, man, the offense has got nothing special about it. 38 pass attempts for 206 yards. I mean, there was nothing that scared the Rams defense the whole night. Not even a glimmer of like, ooh, that's scary. I mean, the best play of the night was Montgomery making a cutback run for a 41-yard run on the first drive. That was it. Okay, he had a few good runs after that, and he plays really well. But there's nothing else about the offense that scares you. And that's, again, where I go back to Justin Fields, who does not look overwhelmed, looks better than what I thought he was going to look in the pre-draft process. And here's another thing that jumps out to me. And, guys, I don't know if you could do this in the back room. Can we show the touchdown run again? Can we let the tape roll a little bit? Look how excited the team is when Justin Fields scores. I mean, they went crazy. Like, to me, that was a reaction like, oh, yes, you're the man. Way to go, Justin. They ran over this. I talked about this in our Peacock post-game show a little bit. I don't know if we're going to have it here on this clip, but they went crazy with him in the end zone. You could tell the team was legitimately like, man, you're awesome. That was an awesome run. Way to go. And, I just think they're doing an injustice to their football team by not playing him at this point. He's their guy. He's going to make the rest of the offense easy. Because of his running ability, he is going to make defenses play simpler defenses, which then he'll be able to throw those boring 5-yard slants and 6-yard hitch routes just like Andy Dalton. It's not going to be overly complicated. So that's where I don't get it. I would be Fields all the way.
The question is, for how long can Matt Nagy stave off the avalanche, the expectation, the home crowd, which will
here you go,
get a
Mike.
chance
Look at this, Mike.
Greet the Bears on Sunday when they take on Andy Dalton's Bengals. Bengals team that looked a hell of a lot better than we thought they would on Sunday against Minnesota.
Yeah, no, play that again, that reaction there. Damn, Cole Kmet wants to kiss him and hug him and like everything. They're so excited. And then that to me is like, that's like excitement like, hey, man, you're freaking awesome. That was awesome. Look at them. He's got everybody over there. I don't know. That to me says something. They see the player. Look, there's the Mooney, the receiver. He's over there going, damn, I didn't even do anything, but that was an awesome run. Let's go. Way to go, Justin Fields. You're the man. That reaction said a lot to me. Mike, here's the question. If we get into the second quarter this week, and I know this is cold-blooded because it's Andy Dalton and the Bengals, that if they get in the second quarter and they're down 10-3, 10-0, there's going to be anarchy in that stadium. There is going to be anarchy. I think if he stumbles this week again, Andy Dalton, you're going to see Justin Fields this week. I think it's going to be too much pressure. I really do. I wouldn't be shocked to see it happen. Let's see. I'm calling my shot right here if that happens.
That means they're going to do everything they can to keep that from happening. And, again, they're going to have a much tougher time than maybe they thought they were going to have against the Bengals for their home opener. But that was – I agree with you. I look for little things like that. The Bears have not been besieged by any leaks from the locker room about how we like Fields over Dalton. We haven't gotten that sense. But that celebration kind of says it all.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.